Welcome to the Cinematic Dogma podcast, your weekly podcast for just hearing about the most recent and exciting movies, except when we decide not to. And we just record about like whatever movie we want to talk about.
Some of our favorites or historical interests.
Yeah. Exactly. Historically important movies as this one. I am Jose, and I'm joined every single week by Blake.
I am Blake, and I'm here to tell you what you should and shouldn't watch.
Yeah. And talking about like what should or shouldn't watch, I don't want to give away my opinion yet, because this is going to be an interesting conversation. But what did we watch this week?
We watched... You say that so smug. We watched the... I don't even know what year it is. The Leonardo
2000?
DiCaprio film, The Beach.
So he directed it.
No, he starred in it alongside Tilda Swinton. Guillaume Canet. My God, that French guy. Incredible.
Oh, yeah.
Love him.
Incredible as an actor?
I think he's a very good actor, but he's turned into, in my opinion, one of the best directors in France today. He directed this amazing film called Tell No One, which is based on a Harlan Coben book by the same name. And he directed it. And it's so good.
What? I didn't realize about that. That's crazy. Okay.
So yes, this film came out in 2001. It was written by Alex Garland, who wrote the novel, and directed by Danny Boyle. And this film has famously, among cinephiles, been completely panned by critics, or at least it was when it came out in the year 2000. I think this was the first film DiCaprio did after Titanic. Is that right?
Probably.
We can,
I think that
we
was
can
like
fact
a big
check
deal.
that.
It was like his moment kind of thing. And this is directed, I don't know, you mentioned by Danny Boyle. That
Yes.
it was also like just coming from doing like other 90s big hits at that time. So it was like a very good combination. I think that The Beach was released, like the book was released like a couple of years before that, like 96 probably. And it was
I
like a
remember
fairly
my
popular
dad
one.
taking me to a bookstore when I was like 14 and buying this book. And I knew my mom wouldn't approve, so I read it in secret at night. And then they made a film about it. And at that time, in the year 2000, I loved Danny Boyle. Now I think he's not that talented. But at the time, 25 years ago.
Yeah, and I think that in 96 he directed Trainspotting. Then he did A Life Less Ordinary that I don't remember, and then he did The Beach. So it was like pretty close. I think that Trainspotting is like his most beloved movie.
And
So it was also-
Slumdog Millionaire, Millions.
Oh, but-
I think people really love Millions.
But those are like years later. If you actually
Yeah.
talk about like the peak of when everyone was like, holy shit, Danny Boyle is like the one to watch for, because he
It was
can do
before
like
that.
really cool stuff. It was like Transport. It was like before that point. I'm not saying I don't like 28 Days Later. I think that people appreciate it. Slumdog Millionaire, maybe one day we should like talk about it. Maybe.
I think we might fight. So...
Sure. Why did we decided, like to pick this 2000 movie?
Because you and I have an ongoing and a long-term conversation about Alex Garland. As a screenwriter, remind me what he directed. He directed Ex Machina.
He directed
And
Ex
Annihilation?
Machina, Annihilation, yeah,
Okay.
Annihilation, Civil War, Man.
So you and I recently disagreed about Civil War, but there's this like long-term examination of him about whether or not he's a good writer, now that he's a director, whether or not he's a good director. I think he's had issues along his entire career, but there's been a lot of promise, and you and I watched Civil War and completely disagreed, and so I said, fine, I'm going to make you watch The Beach.
And I never watched it. I don't exactly know what. I had the feeling that even like when you look about The Beach, about the movie, one of the first things that it comes out is that it was a flop to some extent because the critics didn't like it, and I think that everyone was like put off from it. That they were like, "No, we're not going to watch it." When I had the feeling that it had like some of the elements, as we were saying, like Leonardo DiCaprio in the peak or like the explosion of his popularity. You had Danny Boyle like coming from doing like one of the most iconic movies of the 90s, Alex Garland, that it was like a big promise, and it is still like flop and is not that well regarded. So I think that I avoided it completely. And now that I develop like more of an understanding of who Alex Garland is, I try to stay as away as I could from it.
And I brought you right back. I was like, you're going to watch this.
Yep. So, should we summarize a tiny bit about it?
Yes, so even though this film is 24 years old, we're not going to give too many spoilers, but Richard, played by Leonardo DiCaprio, is a young American backpacker looking for adventures in Thailand. I think the film starts off in Bangkok, but I can't remember specifically.
Yeah.
He meets a young French couple. Gorgeous, gorgeous French people, way too gorgeous to be backpackers. The male is played by Guillaume Canet, whom I already said I loved. He meets an insane person who's clearly out of his mind, either on drugs or mental illness, named Daffy Duck, who tells Richard about a secret paradise island that nobody's supposed to know about, but it's literally just paradise for backpackers that want to go and live there. They smoke a joint. Richard goes to bed. He wakes up in the morning. There's a map on his door showing how to get to the island, and he goes into Daffy's room to thank him and finds out that Daffy has killed himself. He's already fallen in love with this French girl, also at the same hostel, so he goes and knocks on their door and said, do you guys want to go and find this island with me? So they say yes. They go to the island. They find society there that's mostly Europeans. I was going to say white, but no, it's pretty multicultural. It's just that the white actors have the lines.
Let's just say that they are like people from the first world, that they are tourists there, and they want to find like that paradisiac, unique place in the world that is unspoiled by tourists, so they can just like give themselves away to hedonism.
Yes. And so at first it seems like paradise, but then ultimately very quickly it kind of descends into tragedy and chaos. And we don't have to go into any more besides Tilda Swinton is in it, and she's amazing.
Tilda Swinton may be the best part here.
Right? She was so young. So young.
Yeah. And I was even like, I was watching it with my boyfriend. I was saying, like, how old do you think this is? I think that she was 40.
No way. I was actually, at some point, she sleeps with Richard. Spoiler alert, that's not a spoiler. And I was like, no, she has to be like 30, 32?
That's when I checked it out, and I was like, wait, what is the age difference here? I mean, not because I'm like horrified or anything, but it's that she's from 1960, so she was exactly 40 when the movie came out. So probably she was
38 when she filmed it.
Sure, 38. So Leonardo DiCaprio is, well, like 20?
No, he had to be 20 in Titanic.
Let's just look for the data. 74. So yeah, okay, you are right. If he's 98, he may be like 24.
That's not crazy. I mean, my husband and I have a 17-year split.
That's true, but also if you think about like Tilda Swinton being like the leader of an hedonist colony, like self-sufficient colony in the middle of Thailand.
But 38 is the perfect age to lead some sort of like psychotic society.
That's true. And the idea is that they're safe there. And look, it's like if we spoil something, we're like really sorry. This is a 24-year-old movie. I'm not going to be ultra careful like with the spoilers, but it's that they're like basically being allowed to stay on that island by a group of narcs that they are growing weed there.
Which is crazy to me. Weed is not the most profitable crop. I mean, like, grow heroin.
Sure.
Like, grow poppies, man.
Correct. That's exactly what I thought too about, like, well, in 2000, would this make sense? Or it was a bit more of a way of putting it in a way that people from the street, they could understand it about, like, oh, weird. So they don't have to look at the camera for just saying that, hey, this is a hard drug.
Yeah, that's kind of cheap. I see it.
Yeah, but it's cheap, but it's a simplification on purpose. There's like, okay, sure, I will roll with it because I understand it.
Is Alex Garland, remind me, American?
No, he's not.
He's British?
I think so.
No, just I asked because in the 90s at least, the stance of the American government was that weed is as bad as heroin, as bad as fentanyl. So, like, it made sense in the context at the time. Now it's like, I can go to the corner and buy, like, 7,000 milligrams of edibles. So.
I like that you said, like, 7,000 milligrams. Do you say milligrams or grams?
7,000 milligrams. Although you probably can buy 7,000 grams. Nobody gives a shit in California.
Probably. Do they actually take your ID in California, or they just check it?
Yes, and so there's a daily limit.
Yep. Okay, so you cannot buy the 7,000 grams.
No, because I've gone to my dispensary and tried to buy so much flour, and they're like, this is the limit.
Before you complete this thought, I'm sorry for speaking over, just think if you want to be recorded about breaking the law.
It's legal in California.
If you went over the limits or anything,
no.
That would be...
I tried to buy enough flour where they're like, sorry, you can't buy this much. And I said, well, how much edibles can you buy? And I had like literally $400 worth of edibles. And they said, there is no way you can reach the maximum daily limit for edibles. Buy whatever you want. So I think 7,000 grams might be excessive, but 7,000 milligrams is absolutely fine.
Wow. Okay. In any case, I think that we're like deviating a bit from the topic. Is that they're growing weed. There is this tension between like the narcs that they own that plantation and like this hedonist colony.
No, there's not tension. They have a perfect symbiotic
there is
relationship.
A balance. Yeah, there is. Well, it's not really symbiotic. It's a balance because it's that they are not getting anything like from having. It's a bit more about like we would allow you to stay here. That is a bit of a suspension of disbelief about like how they got to that arrangement because they are not getting anything from them being there, anything at all, you know. And it's a bit more. It's like, hey, we got to this arrangement. It's like, how did you get to that arrangement? Because they are not portraying the way of I had to blow all of them off for actually getting to this arrangement. No, it's a bit more like, they don't get with us, we don't get with them. It's like that makes no fucking sense. Honestly, is that they know that that's a risk leaving you there, but they would still allow you to stay there. So they were a bit of a Disney villain kind of characters. So like, sure, they are like a factor on the side. But
I mean,
don't think about too much about them.
The people living on the beach could turn them in, right?
The people living on the beach can turn them in.
They could have, if they got kicked off the island, they would be like, hey, just so you know, there's these weed farmers on the island.
I think that people know like that island is off limits because there is something shady going on. Is that there is a bit of an implication of, hey, people don't go to that island for a reason.
And in the story, it's restricted. Like, nobody's allowed to go to that island at all. So, yeah, that makes sense.
As actually, after like this movie became like this popular, is that they actually tourists started like flocking to that island and basically did like irreparable damage to the place.
This sounds vaguely familiar, but I had forgotten it.
Yeah, so Thailand actually closed the island. First, like, we don't allow people anymore, like for 4 or 5 years. And they reopened it, I think that it was last year. But they are like counting like the amount of people that they can go and like the time that you can spend there.
This is the actual lagoon they filmed in?
Yeah. And they also was like a bit of a polemic because when they recorded there, is that it was that they also damaged a part of the beach.
It's Thailand, man.
They have amazing beaches everywhere, so don't complain. Okay, sure. But yeah, I think that we won't like even into too much detail about the summary. Maybe we could just jump into, did you like it?
I would like you to answer that question first, please.
So, I'm going to say that I liked it more than I expected. It's a
that's the end of the podcast. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for agreeing with me. I recognize that Alex Garland is a good writer. Bye. No, what I could say is it's a very, very aged movie.
It's
done in
very 90s.
Very 90s.
But like in a fun way.
In a fun way, it was like after the third part that it felt like a video clip. That is it, dude, do you need to do like 2 minutes of a song playing? Yeah. And that part, I hated it. I hated that part, like with the video game. I think that the movie falls apart like during that act where he tries to be like Apocalypse Now or something like that. Or the guy like going crazy by himself, like on the mountain. I just felt is that this makes no sense. Is that this, from a writing perspective, makes no fucking sense. Is that this is not properly developed for justifying like this kind of tension. And the other part that I felt is like, and I was telling this, we were watching Little Big Lies on
Little
HBO.
what?
Little Big Lies is called, like the Nicole
Oh,
Kidman.
Big Little Lies.
Big Little Lies, sorry. We're watching Big Little Lies, and we're talking about subtlety and restraint, and just like going big. And I felt it's like, hey, in The Beach, when they have, spoiler alert, like the tension at the end with the narcs getting to the community, that you are expecting them to arrive at some point, you know that conflict is going to be arising, is that I didn't feel any dread. I didn't feel like any tension of a real tension. Oh my God, their lives are in danger. And the same way is how I felt like when Leonardo DiCaprio is in the mountain, about like, there is no dread, there is no craziness, there is like just like nothing materializes here. You're telling me that that's what you're trying to tell me, that you're trying to convey on the screen, but this doesn't work. And with that show, with Big Little Lies, I just felt it's like, hey, they have like many scenes where there is only like a small gesture or a small like camera editing that it conveys the whole thing. Like the relationship between Nicole Kidman and Alex Garland is like, hey, there are like many scenes that they display that kind of relationship of, hey, we know what we have to put on the screen to just display how these characters are truly feeling and what is the tension that is being built here. The Beach is not like that. The Beach is that, hey, if I want to convey dread, I'm going to be like making all of the characters going like screaming from one line to another and just like crying, ah! If it is like, dude, this is 90s. This is like 90s. There is no subtlety. There is not quality making of cinema. There is no restraint.
It's a good point, because I feel the same way you did. Like, you're not invested in these characters. Like, you don't care if any of them live or die. There was a little bit of an emotional tug for Tilda Swinton, but, well, we won't go into it. It's just because she's amazing. But yeah, I didn't care. I was fine if any of them lived or died. So I guess that kind of takes away from cinema as an art, but I felt like this was so entertaining that I didn't care. And to go back to your question that I pushed back on you, did I like it? I like this film. I think it nicely reminds me of the 90s, and I wanted to ask you this question because we recently rewatched Run Lola Run, which is quintessentially 90s. Do you think that film aged better or this film aged better?
Both of them are a product of their time, and apologetically a product of their time. Now, I think that Run Lola Run knows what it is. It's Tom Tickwer saying that, hey, I want to do like the quintessential 90s film.
But I'm asking you which one aged better. Just answer the question.
I'm telling you why I'm going to be answering like one of the two. I think that The Beach tried to have more lofty aspirations, and for me, it ended up, I told you I liked it more than I expected, but it ended up being like, there is no way of moving this away from this decade. I think that it has like a good premise. I think that even like the premise that it has is that you could apply it to nowadays. Is that thanks to social media, we make popular things for just saying like, look at how unique and special this place is. But truly in the point that you share that to the world, you are fucking up that place. And it's exactly what is the premise of the chasing of something that is unique and special and only for me, and you fuck it up in the process. So the premise is more or less timeless at a different scale, but the way of doing this movie is so hard to just pull it from the 90s. Alberi tries to be more lofty. And Run Lola Run, I think that is better as a product of her time because it's so unapologetic on what it's trying to do that it just succeeds. It's like it doesn't want to be seen in any other decade. It's similar to The Lost Boys. The Lost Boys doesn't want to be seen as a transcendental movie that is going to be like considered fresh in the 2000s.
And you think The Beach is trying to be that? Because I feel like The Beach is exactly that. It's like a fun 90s film. Like, that's all it's trying to be.
No, I think that then The Beach tries to be more than that.
Okay. I can respect that.
Come on, it's like
Run Lola Run
doesn't try to be... Run Lola Run doesn't try to be anything else. Nothing at all. And we were talking about like kind of kindness recently, but it's like you also see the same story 3 times. It's like it's not about like, hey, I want to make like a 19-minute movie that is going to be like just getting you to think about like how you approach the world and the impact that you have in it, like The Beach is, like Alex Garland.
You really think The Beach is trying to get you to think differently about the world? I think it's just about a spoiled little rich kid who wants to go to a beach and then things get dark. There's no like higher message. Alex Garland isn't saying, think about nature, think about your impact on the environment. There's nothing higher. It's not trying to be anything.
No, I honestly think that he tries, but it doesn't land. But I think that he tries.
And what is the message you think he's trying to make?
That in the process of actually trying to find something unique, you and special, and that place that you truly can call home, you are going to be like just wasting your time and fucking whatever you find in the process, because that place do not really exist, and even if it does exist, your presence there is going to fuck it.
I cannot disagree with that. I can see that. I just don't see that as a transcendental message. It's not like he was like, I'm going to tell a story that is relevant for 100 years. There's nothing there.
Don't you feel like right now, if you do the parallelism with traveling and social media, the same message is present?
Can you tell me more?
At a different scale, but it's just think how everyone is trying to pursue like a place that it feels like unique and magical, and that it resonates with your soul in a way that you didn't expect it to. I mean, I'm part of many subreddits related towards Spain, and I read so many posts about Americans like just thinking about like, hey, this is the place that I was supposed to be in.
I can't comment on the subreddits. I see what's happening on social media as such a different thing. It's just people trying to show as if they found the place that Richard finds in this film, but there's nothing realistic about anybody's social media. They're just doing perfect Instagram posts, and it's extremely shallow. I feel like this guy was really looking for something different and unique, which is not what influencers and people on Instagram are trying to do.
Well, but if I recall correctly, even Daffy tells him something like, hey, I'm going to trust you because you get it. That is that the people that they are there is that they don't care about like sharing it and just like making it like a big thing. Is that they care about like just truly finding like a place where they can actually belong and they will make it work together. But he is not like the rest. He fucks it up. And he is like the detonant for things like just spiraling out of control.
Yeah, I mean,
because
I
the
don't
person.
disagree with your analysis. I just don't think it's relevant to social media at all. It's a completely different thing.
I honestly made me think about this. That is, you could do like a similar story to The Beach, like nowadays. Now, I will tell you, it will be a short, because in the point that you put it like in social media, and if it catches on, that place is fucked in 10 days.
Yeah, could be. But the point is, he didn't put it on social media. He made one drunken mistake with 2 people.
It was 96, and he was sober. He did it in the morning. There is no excuse for what he did.
Oh, that's right. I forgot.
Yeah, so, no. There is no excuse. There is no, like, saving grace. And I'm sorry, Leonardo DiCaprio doesn't, like trigger any sympathy from the audience. It's like he is not the victim on this story, because he lies over and over and over.
I do enjoy his freakouts when he was with Francoise and her boyfriend, Etienne. When he's like, "Why is this my problem? Why am I in charge?"
But honestly, is that I was entertained. I watched it like, this is better. Is the guy
more so than other Alex Garland scripts or films?
Yes.
That makes me happy.
I think that for me, this was like way more palatable than Civil War. Maybe it was because it was not trying to be like so expansive on the message and the setting that I felt it's like, okay, cool. You are not the greatest, because as I told you, is that the part about like developing any kind of sympathy for making the last parts the last acts land, this movie fails in it miserably. Is that there is no sympathy for any of the characters, so no resolution matters.
I'm actually scanning my bookshelves to see if I still own the copy that I bought at 14, because as a novel, again, I was 14, I remember this being pretty good. I'd like to revisit it.
Maybe, honestly, I believe you, because I feel is that hey, this may have been lost in translation to the big screen. And actually, as Danny Boyle is still thinking that he is doing like transporting, and he's doing like these video clips along the way, you know? And once again, what you were asking about Run Lola Run is that I think that transporting and Run Lola Run, they're closer on the being unapologetically like this is this decade we're doing something
rooted
for
in
this
the
time.
90s. Yep.
Rooted in the 90s and just like aware that they're rooted in the 90s and they're going to be like, we're going to be as 90 as we can, but Transporting is a better movie than Run Lola Run.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Also, fun fact about this, Ewan McGregor starred in Trainspotting, and he expected to be given the lead role in The Beach. Danny Boyle did not give it to him, and that caused the rift that lasted like 20 years between them because Ewan McGregor was so pissed off.
Wait, did they work again, Danny Boyle?
No, but I think they're friendly now, but like they didn't speak for like 20 years because he was so pissed off.
Wow,
I'm
okay.
exaggerating the years, I'm sure, but like this was a thing in the industry.
Oh, for Transporting 2, yeah, they work again because they did a
yes.
sequel. Yeah,
And that's the first time they worked together again.
Yeah, and I think that maybe Ewan McGregor... I know that Ewan McGregor didn't want to do the sequel like, for a very long time. I always thought that it was more as a... I don't do sequels, but it may have been more of a personal topic.
Yep.
So, should we go over the questions?
Yes, please.
So, would you watch it again?
100%. I've seen this film like 10 times.
10 times? Okay, that's pretty crazy.
It's kind of a comfort film for me. It's like Tilda Swinton, the 90s, good 90s music, beautiful beaches.
Sure. I think that I will watch it again. I remember that I only watched 5 minutes of it, and the scene that I watched, it was like when he's having this fever dream in the mountain, and he sees Daffy again. He goes into the room, and they start shooting with the shotgun, with the chain gun to the people on the beach about like, hey, you have to kill the people that they are invading our sacred place. They are going to kill it, you know, without realizing that is another problem is Leonardo DiCaprio. He's already there. He already fucked you over. And come on, is like what he does, or just like doing like this trap, that booby trap. Is like, why are you doing that? What do you think that you're going to be like winning with this?
He was out of his mind.
Surreal. It's look, sure. It's that he is not a sympathetic character. Let's just go with that. But yeah, we'll watch it again. I don't think that I will watch it tomorrow, but it's an easy to watch movie, as you were saying.
Very easy to watch.
It doesn't require any effort. It's that you just put it there and it just plays, and you have an entertaining time. Would you recommend The Beach?
Yes. I'm pretty sure I recommended it to you for years. I think this is a fun film. I really do. Like you said, it's easy to watch. It's entertaining. There's good performances. Yes, it's like eating popcorn at a theater. It's very light. It's not going to fill you up. You're probably going to feel bad the next day, but it's fun. It's a fun movie.
I don't know if I could go with good performances. I think that Tilda does a good job. The French kids, I was like completely like, I don't care. And Leo is still on these early stages that I'm like,
he was figuring things out.
Seriously, yeah, I don't take it too seriously. His character is not too well written, and he doesn't help the character either. It's not like those cases that we say, it's like, hey, at least he does the most he can with that role. In this case, it's like, no, the role didn't help, and you didn't make it any better. So I don't think that I would recommend it because I cannot fathom a situation what I would recommend is. If someone asked me about Danny Boyle, I would recommend Transporting. I would recommend Slumdog Millionaire before getting to this. If someone asked me about like Alex Garland, I wouldn't recommend anything.
Oh my god.
And that's it.
You're so rigid in your opinions. You can't admit that he has talent. He has some talent.
Dude, I'm not convinced. Honestly, I'm still like a bit of a... If the best that he has done is something that I qualify as is entertaining without like getting to anything else, I don't know. I wouldn't recommend anything. I would be like a bit more about like, tell me which movies did you watch, and I would tell you what is the next one that it would be the least painful to watch. And in that case, I may recommend this movie, but it's so grounded in the 90s, but it's not one of the iconic 90s movie. It's like, I would recommend Transporting, I would recommend Fight Club, I recommend Run Lola Run before even thinking about The Beach. Would you remember it? Did you remember it after watching so many times?
Yes. But also, I read the book. I've seen the movie multiple times. I can't say as somebody who's not initiated. But yeah, I know this movie like the back of my hand.
I think that I will remember it. Not all of the details, but I would remember that it's like they do a long ass trip for just getting to the island, and then just stay there, and then the whole dream like falls apart.
And then shark attack.
A shark attack. And a shark attack. Oh my god! All of the shark storyline is so surreal. But yeah, no need to get into details. Is there anything artistic about it?
Yeah, we disagree about the performances. I think, well, not about Tilda. Tilda did amazing. I think Leo's performance was fine. Good, even. The music. The direction is solid, you have to admit. Like, even if the script had major issues, Danny Boyle does know what he's doing behind a camera. Yes. The answer is yes.
Yeah, I'm trying to separate these from our next question. And is I'm going to go with yes, this is artistic. About like, hey, for in the movie made in the 90s, this was like solidly made. Like the outdoors, they are like properly depicted as a paradisiac place, and it was shot in location. So it still has like some merit to actually put this out. So yeah, I will go with yes. The acting, sure, Tilda. Is it a timeless piece?
If we go with the themes that you pointed out, yes, it's about destroying something that you're looking for that's perfect. I mean, besides the final scene with the ancient email platform, there's nothing really that's rooted in technology or a specific point in time.
Well, I think that is for me. I'm going to go with no. The topics is like as I actually discussed them. Is I think that they can be timeless, but the presentation is as timely as it gets.
I can agree with that. I won't deny it. My answer is still yes, but I see what you're saying.
Yeah, it's like basically what we were saying, like the Lost Boys of the 90s, but it's not so unapologetic about it. I think that Danny Boyle was thinking that he was doing something that it would transcend time.
Yeah, I think he thought this was like an awards vehicle.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think that this was like just presented before release as this is going to be like the big movie of this year, the one to watch like for the Oscars.
And it was not. It was not it.
Would you turn this into a TV show?
No, it was perfect as a film.
What about like a 4-episode HBO Max show?
No, because they're going to turn it into Lost and make it awful. No.
I like Lost, but okay. I'm going to go with no too, but I saw my boyfriend when we were watching this. He was asking me, he's like, was this before Lost? Because I can see some elements.
Parallels. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, not a lot of them, you know, like the premise is different, whatever, but yeah. But probably no. I think that I can see how you can get a TV show out of this, but I don't think that is a TV show that I would like to watch.
I just don't think there's enough material. Well, I don't know. I want to reread the book and then I'll answer. Maybe there's enough material in there. But from the film itself, there's not much more I want to know or spend time in this world about.
I mean, they could have done the way that they present the people that they are in that community. It reminded me a bit of those reels that they are almost on every single Wes Anderson movie. That is like, meet my quirky characters. There is a point of every single like Wes Anderson movie that he says that it's
true.
like, oh, there was like these weird twins that only speak in Swedish, but then there is also like this old person that has always lived here, and then there is, and they do the same here.
They really do. So like when they get to the island and Richard's like, well, there was this guy who liked cricket, and then there were the three Swedes, and the three Swedes are just standing there with. That's exactly a Wes Anderson. Yeah, exactly.
Yep. So that style, it has to have a name. It's like Wes Anderson probably didn't create like this kind of introduction that is like slightly quirky, and people are looking at the camera about like, they're looking about me. They're talking about me. So like breaking the fourth wall for just like making it like a moment that the audience has to pay attention, because they are not going to be giving you more development of any of these characters.
Nope.
So
that's it.
I just feel it's like maybe there is a bit more of an organic and elegant way of doing this if you turn it into a TV show and you give a bit more of a screen time to these characters, that they're like just hyper compressed into something for just having one mini role in the whole movie.
Yep, I agree.
Could this have been a short?
Nope. The story is
No?
literally too big for an hour. I really feel that way.
Let me just think. Okay, no, I'm going to go with no, because the pacing is not bad, except the part when he's in the mountain. But it's that the pacing on the rest, I feel like, hey, there is
It's pretty
always
quick.
something happening.
There's a lot of story there.
Yeah, okay. I'm going to go with no too. I think that this, for telling the same story, it wouldn't be possible to just turn this into a short. Do you think that this movie could have been better?
Yeah, I mean, it's not a perfect film by any stretch of the imagination. I don't know that I can point out anything beyond, like, the writing could have been better. I feel like the ending was a little weak, even though it was satisfactory. I would just say the writing. Yes, so this film could have been better.
Yeah, I agree, and I also agree. The direction could have been a bit more timeless, but it could have been a different movie.
Yep.
So it's more about like the script and a bit more. I think that the directing could have been a bit more solid about like, hey, you want me to feel dread because I can see like how if you are living in this paradisiac place that you created for yourself, and then you see how it stumbles down, I could see like the fear being displayed in a different way. You can be better about conveying like these emotions of building dread and fear about what is happening on the screen. He didn't. I wish that he did. I think that would have been like making me like walk away with like, oh wow, is that this actually made me feel a bit scared when I have to be scared, but it didn't. There was no like the bear scene. Like when the nurse arrived there, it didn't turn into the bear scene from Annihilation.
Oh, that was such a good scene. My God.
Yeah. So yeah, it could have been better. Should we now score this?
I'm going to go first. You're going to roll your eyes at me, but I think this is slightly better than Kinds of Kindness. So my score is a 7.5. I think this is a solid movie. I think people dismissed it too early, and that I'm happy that you liked it more than, I don't want to misquote you, but most Alex Garland projects.
Yeah. I think I don't know exactly why. It's like, and what I was telling you is like maybe the book actually fills out some of the concerns that I have, and maybe it's because having Spain ravaged every year by tourists, that they are destroying like the places that I grew up in. Is that it feels like, hey, I can resonate a tiny bit with this story, albeit you are telling it from the perspective of the people that they are destroying the place. So it just feels like, okay, this is a bit more interesting. You are not going into any kind of crazy cosmic horror or telling you how our country is going to be like divided. But
You will
war
not keep
journalism will
picking
save
on
it.
Civil War. We're talking about the beach.
This will ever end. You wanted to watch one more Alex Garland movie? Is that you're giving me like a free pass there? Sorry. So for me, the score is going to be a 6.5. It's an okay film.
No.
I was entertained. Is that I don't think that it changed my life in any kind of way. I don't think that it's elevated. I was a bit graded or put off by how 90s it was.
Honestly, your score is way higher than I thought it would be. I mean, I knew I was right that this is a good film, but I didn't think you would get it.
I think that it's better than Civil War. Honestly, like way better. And I know that I was like a bit heated on that conversation, but I think that this is like, we will see it like 20 years from now. People are going to say that it's like, hey, The Beach, sure, it was like just inherently attached or anchored to that time in history, but Civil War was too. And the problem is that Civil War was trying to be more than what it actually was.
Or something horrible is going to happen in November, and in 20 years, people will be like, wow, Alex Garland saw this 6 months before it happened.
Sure, I'm only 4 years. I'm only 8 years after the first time that it happened. So yeah, if we're talking about like November, not about like what will happen in January. So, well, I don't think that there is anything else to say about The Beach. We have been talking about it like way longer than I expected.
Because it's a good movie. Or
let's not stretch it.
It's a good movie to discuss. How about that?
Sure. It's a good movie for us to discuss, that you defend like Alex Garland way much more than I do.
Because he's great.
To everyone out there, thank you so much for putting up with Blake. Is that now you see what I have to put up with. And thank you so much for putting up with our conversation. Hope that you had a good time.
And join us next week where we tell you what you should and shouldn't watch.
Bye.